Hello and welcome to Audible River. I'm Alan Rice and I'm very happy to have with me Scot Gresham-Lancaster, composer and innovator in sound design and sound technology. Scot is a founding member performing with the internationally renowned electronic music group, The Hub. Scot has taught at numerous universities, including California State University, Hayward, San Jose State University, and University of Texas at Dallas. And he is also a visiting researcher at UC Berkeley Center for New Music and Audio Technologies. And Scot is also a Margaret and Frank Molina Art Science Research Fellow at UT Dallas ATEC Art Sci Lab. Hello, Scot. It's great to see you today.
Hey, same here. Same here. Been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, Scot and I are old friends, and we are old besides being old friends. So, today, and the reason I got in touch with you and it was what I want to ask you about. Can you just start by talking about what is sonification?
Okay, well, I started restating that. Instead of saying sonification, I would just say listening to data. So
Okay.
we're so used to looking at data and pie charts and different graphs and things that come up but we really don't experience the idea of having information and being able to get an idea about some set of information based on the way it sounds. In other words, when we think about data, we think about it as a visual thing. And sound has got so much to offer in terms of, just it's loaded with info. You can tell, just by listening to something that there's all sorts of things going on. You can detect little details, and even if it's not music, just if it's a sound, if it's the sound of a bus going by, you can tell whether the bus has squeaky brakes or whatever. So things are packed with information, and data is information, or actually data might have information in it. So is there a way of using sound to get to that information? Now, the weird part, and the reason why it's not so popular, is that there is music. And so, and John Cage sort of had the famous 4 minutes and 33 seconds where whatever sounds are happening become the musical piece. So now there's this like no barrier between, what's music and what's sound. There's like this kind of weird nebulous area for some people, and other people, pretty much everybody knows what music is. I mean, it's got a beat and there's notes and stuff like that. But as soon as you start taking data and fitting it into the music realm, and making it play melodies and harmonies and stuff, then all of a sudden you have all the problems of, well, what style is that music in? And as somebody, I don't listen to that kind of, this sounds like the kind of crappy music I hate that's on, Atari drum machines or whatever. I mean, and so then you get into the whole cultural problem of music itself. To back up, listening to data is what sonification is. Now, the problems that just trying to do that entails end up being way more than you would initially think, just from my little convoluted explanation there.
Well, it sounds like you obviously have a lot of experience with it. So how long have you been working with, turning, okay, let's say listening to data?
Okay, no, you can say sonification. I just use the listening to data thing to just sort of get people in the ballpark of what we're talking about.
Right.
It could be, it sounds like some kind of scientific term, which I guess it is, but it really is a little bit simpler than that. It's just, it's like you have a bunch of numbers, and you could put them on a pie chart. So, but what would they sound like? And if you're going to do that, how would you make those numbers sound? And there's like really, literally millions of ways of doing that. And then as soon as you do it, it at least becomes sound. And then you get into this threshold about music that I was kind of discussing. I started, that's an interesting question because, I mean, I've been involved in electronic music. My 7th grade science fair project was a theremin. And
a theremin, is that the little thing that they use in like to make those weird noises like space noises and things?
My most famous theremin solo is the Raimy Land in the Lost Weekend. Whenever he has a craving for alcohol, you hear a theremin and good vibrations of the Beach Boys tune has got a theremin in there. You
Uh-huh.
know,
Okay.
it might actually be a Moog rhythm controller, but anyway, that's a technical detail.
Yeah.
The bottom line is the theremin. It was a kind of a simple circuit that was designed by Leon Theremin in Moscow, and I got to meet him. He was 91 years old. It was like 6 months before he died.
Wow.
He came to the East Bay of San Francisco, San Francisco Bay Area, and to Mills College, where I have a long affiliation. I used to be the technical director there at the Center for Contemporary Music and stuff. Anyway, I got to talk to him, and he told this great story about um, he had to show the theremin to Vladimir Lenin in
Really?
1921. So he was like, he was like probably 29, he's like 22 years old, 21 years old because he's an old guy. And, he goes to show, and he wasn't sure if he was going to be, executed or he didn't know what was going to happen because,
Oh,
things were weird. But Lennon really liked it. And then, well, anyway, theremin's an interesting. He made this instrument, and the distinctive thing about it is that you don't touch it. It's all has to do with proximity. So the closer you get to the antenna, the higher the pitch goes. So as your hand, boop, and I'm moving my hand towards the screen, which listeners can't see, but as you move your hand towards the antenna on this thing, it goes higher. And as you move your hand closer to the other antenna, it gets louder. So it's a combination of just moving your hands in space.
oh,
Uh,
wow.
now just to get back to the sonification thing, that's a sonification of movement. It's only on a two-dimensional thing. It's just along a line. Well, it's sort of three-dimensional, but basically the net effect is just how close. It's a proximity detection, right? But it is turning the distance from your hand to the antenna into a sound. So that's a sonification of movement.
And so
And
you
actually, yeah, go ahead.
you said you did this when you made one in your seventh grade, like a science
Yeah, it was
project.
my science fair project was that, and then my senior year of high school, they bought a Moog on my request it was like at Ravenswood, which was this. They were integrating this high school in East Palo Alto. I grew up in the San Francisco Peninsula, and so they bought a Ravox tape recorder and a Moog synthesizer, and I, worked there. And I had gotten invited over to the Mills Center for Contemporary Music. So while I was a senior in high school, I was going to Mills and studying with Terry Riley and different people at Mills. And I saw this is a long way around. Just to say, I've been at it for a long time. So that here we're talking 1970, I think 1971, something like that. But there was a guy, Tom Zarakis, who took a philodendron plant and hooked up a lie detector machine to it, and then took the voltage that was driving the needles on the lie detector and had that play a Buchla synthesizer. And he told everybody in the audience, now this is like at the height of the hippie thing, right? So the audience was very susceptible, whole earth catalog, that kind of thing, and everybody, he told them, use your psychic ability and influence the sound that the synthesizer is making because of the changes in the plant. And so everybody in the audience was just like riveted and trying to like psychically change the plant on stage. That was pretty impressive. And so that was my first exposure, and that again is sonification, taking what we would call, on a human, the galvanic skin resistance. On a plant, I mean, it's a galvanic something. I mean, it's the change of conductivity of the plant, of the philodendron's leaf,
Hmm.
and turning that into a voltage, and then the voltage is changing some of the many variables that can change on an analog synthesizer. And it's just been a series of experiments like that. I mean, I can go through the years, but it just seems like I've always been doing something where there's data or numbers being generated by something, and that's being turned into some sort of musical event. And so the hub, which you mentioned, was an interactive computer music network group, and uh, the hub, uh, what it is there's six of us, and we each have a computer, and we send information back and forth to each other, depending on the piece. I mean, I could play some pieces for you to demonstrate this, but basically, you take some number in from when we were using MIDI. For those that I don't know if anybody in the audience knows what MIDI is, it's called a musical instrument digital interface. That's what MIDI stands for. And you have these channels. So the way we set it up is, if I got something on channel 2, I know it was John, and it would and if I sent something out on channel 2, it would show up as channel 6, which he knew was me. And so we could transfer notes and could control information and that kind of stuff. And then we would have these different compositions based on the fact that we could do that. And so there were no keyboards. We were just like passing information back and forth. So, and this was starting in like 84, 85. So that's the beginning of what they call interactive computer network music.
So you were pioneering on this at that time.
Yeah, we definitely were way ahead of what I mean. This has kind of turned into laptop music, and it's more dance oriented and stuff now. The stuff we are doing is much more kind of avant-garde and far out and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. So Scott, do you have any examples you'd like to throw at us today?
Let's see. Yeah, let's see. That's a good question. Let's see if this will work. I think just give me a second. I got to look it up here. Yeah. Here's a piece called Hot Potato. Okay, you remember the child's game Hot Potato?
Yeah.
Where you throw a beanbag to somebody and you pretend like it's a really hot potato and you throw it on to this person.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what this is. You throw a note to somebody else and they get it, and they can transpose it. They have to turn it down, but they transpose it either up a major or minor third or down a major or minor third. So there's 4 notes it could possibly turn into. So you get a B flat, it could become either a D or a, in other words, there's a transformation that happens, and everybody's throwing this stuff around. So
let's hear it.
That's a minute worth. That's probably enough for now, right?
Oh, that was fascinating. That really was.
It's pretty interesting stuff. I should say that's from a live performance from a week-long seminar we did in Cuneo, Italy, and that's in this cathedral in Cuneo. That recording it's from. There's a 3 CD set on Zodic, retrospective of the hub stuff, and that's a recording from that CD. That is. On Zodic, TZD. John Zorn's labeled Zodic.
So your pieces, when you perform with the hub, you have. Let me see if I get this right. So you have sort of like rules that you're playing by, but and then you may call the piece by those whatever those rules are, but the piece itself, as it's performed, could be different every time. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, that's an interesting phenomenon that happens. They're sort of different, but they're not. I mean, because the rules, kind of constrain it into this zone. So Hot Potato always sort of sounded like that. I mean, it would depend on what electronic instruments were being played and stuff, but it always had that kind of density that you're hearing there. That sort of was based around that sort of thing.
Oh, that's amazing. So do you have something else you want to share?
The hub, the hub stuff.
Let's hear another hub piece.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. There's a famous composer named Eric Satie who did this piece called Vexations, which was had the prelude in French, but it said if one were to play this 840 times, well, it's like 30 bars of music, and to play it 840 times takes like about 20 hours. And so Cage did a version of this piece one time in Manhattan in the early 70s or late 60s, and it was like a 20-hour performance, and with people coming in and spelling. And so I had the idea, well, we got all these computers, we could speed that up, you know. So I did a version of Vex where the Vexations, this chorale that was written by Eric Satie, is played, but the members of the hub get the notes, and then they can pass them around in that same kind of way, and kind of speed up the process. Get the like it'll take 20 hours. It's still, I'm not sure how long. It's a pretty long piece, but
let's just hear a little bit of it then.
Yeah, right. It's this is leading into it. This is the end of a piece by Alvin Curran called Erat Musik Sum in Berlin. This is from a performance in Berlin. Here, let me scoot up until we're into the piece.
Okay.
It's kind of a nocturne.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear that? Is it too soft?
Oh no, I can make adjustments. Yeah.
Wow. I don't know what's going on here. My computer isn't getting power, I just noticed. Here, hang on. Definite technical problem here.
That's the life of an innovator, right?
Yeah, right. No, I mean, it's just a stupid thing. My laptop isn't getting power.
The music is coming through.
Well, anyway, you're hearing me, right?
I am hearing you. And that was a very interesting piece.
Okay.
When you take it all together with your technical difficulties, it was
Yeah, right. It's a genuine drama there on the old podcast. The bottom line is my battery is down to nothing, and for some reason I'm plugged in, but it's not charging. So why don't you pause your thing for a second? Let me fix this.
Yeah, you know what? I think that here's what I'm going to do. We're gonna make this a 2-part episode, and then I'm going to sign out here and do the usual, and we'll come back in with a second episode. Okay, that's just my technical thing. Okay, all right.
Okay, yeah, sure. If you want to,
go.
I mean, there's no pause on the deal.
Okay. And that is all for this episode of Audible River. Stay tuned for part 2 with Scot Gresham-Lancaster.